Good evening, my name is Debbie. I'm a Live for Love TV subscriber on YouTube. It's a very informative channel, so when you have a spare moment, please like, share and subscribe. Live for Love TV. Thank you.
Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the 18th day, the 10th month of the 22nd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Again, today we're going to talk about the UK, the political situation, which is unbelievable if you've been following it. And for those of you in the UK, maybe you can enlighten me as to when there's been a time like this politically. Now, I want to start by making it clear that Winston Churchill in the Second World War claimed that this would be Britain's finest hour. What did he know? He recognized, well, what he knew obviously is he recognized that the colonial system of the Britain was coming to an end, and the Second World War was a catalyst to that, along with a lot of other things. And 2 years after that they lost India, a few years after that they lost Ghana, then they lost literally almost every other colonial country they had where they were getting their wealth from. And it's been pretty bad and pretty downhill ever since then, because unlike Germany, who lost most of its colonial countries after the First World War, they had to rely on their intelligence and their ability to make things and their ability to entrepreneur skills and then sell things to the world. Britain was used to stealing things from other countries and making itself wealthy. So as time went on, made in England became almost made in China, you could say, made in Taiwan, made in Vietnam. The things that you look at, your Clark shoes and a lot of your clothes that you thought like made the Jaguar cars and all this, when you look properly, none of these things are made in the UK anymore. So how do they make their money? How does the UK stay where it was in the world? How's the pound been so strong for so many years up to this point? Well, there's a lot of tying up of contracts and multinationals, but really they have something called a square mile in the UK, in London, where basically the money laundering and all the money goes on. That's where the money chase, basically gamblers and the bankers and all that. There's basically no rules for those guys, and that's how they've been keeping the money in their system. But once people stop to trust in the UK as that place where their money is safe, the UK is finished. And that's been coming for quite a while. And we can see it every day as time goes on. As you saw just recently in the last few weeks, when the money people, the bankers, all the people that put their money into currencies and stuff ran away from the pound and started going back into the reserve currency, the USA dollar. So England has been on a decline for over 70 years, steady decline. And anybody who's lived in the UK and are old enough would have seen that decline. But what they've been good at up to this point is covering it up and making people think things are okay. And how have they done that? By borrowing. They've borrowed their way into looking like everything is well. You see the guy across the road, he's really struggling, he's suffering, he knows he's not doing well, but the bank manager trusts him and he's able to buy a brand new car. Then he's able to put an extension on his house. And then he's able to go, put out the loft extension as well. So if you're watching him from the outside, you're thinking, well, he's doing quite well, his job must be going very well. But actually he's struggling and he's suffering, and his job is going very badly, but he's able to borrow against it for the time being. But when he's no longer able to borrow, even just to pay his debts on the things he already has, you're going to quickly see a decline that's going to look like it happened overnight, when it was happening for years and years. And this is what's happening to the UK. The UK is in a really bad situation. The Tory party, which is the Conservative party, won with a landslide over the Labour Party, who was in charge, Jeremy Corbyn. Worst defeat by a Labour leader, they said, for something like 80 to 90 years. That means that the Tory party and Boris Johnson won by a landslide, literally run away with it. And within less than 5 years, that's all they had to hold out was 5 years until the next election. Look what's happened. They're trying to blame outside forces, but the truth is they put somebody in charge who really was incapable. And what do incapable people always do? They love to put people who are less capable than them, because that's what makes them incapable, around them, so that they look like they know what they're doing. They look like they're powerful. But whenever they get into trouble, very quickly you realize that everybody around them is even worse than they were. And as you see now, Boris Johnson's gone, you can see the current Prime Minister, the Chancellor, and all these people there, they are literally worse than he was. And there's even a sort of clamour in the UK for bring back Boris. With all that went on, with all the parties, all the shenanigans, all the not reporting sexual offenders in his party that he knew about, people have actually, within, I don't know how long, a few weeks or 6 weeks of him going, they're already calling for him back. The UK is in a situation where you'd have to say, short of a miracle, and I mean a real miracle, I'm not talking about one of these, lucky breaks, short of a real miracle, the UK is flat. It's a flat line. It literally it's flatlining, and it has to go down. It's going to go down for maybe 50, maybe even more years. It's going to be unrecognizable for most people. People are going to be leaving the UK, as far as I'm concerned, in droves, if they can get out, if they've got the money to get out, if they're not, tied up in the debt. And I've been talking about this for a long, long time, because the UK is really a third world country masquerading as a first world country. It really is, and it's been doing that for a long time. But now I think the game's up, and the game's up when you start to see the kind of people they put in charge. Everyone's trying to pretend that this particular Prime Minister is the problem. The Prime Minister's not the problem. It's the people that put her there that's the problem. They had a chance to put other people there and they didn't. The same thing happened with Boris. They had a chance to bring somebody else in that may have helped them and they didn't. So it's always going to be the people that are the real problem in the country. That's me and you, that when we're there, or if we're in the country, it's me and you. Even if we don't vote, we are still the problem, because we allow these people to get to power. They shouldn't be in power. They don't have what it takes. They just use sound bites and let what they call the 1% or the big money people or the big bankers run the place. But sooner or later, the banker's going to run it, and they're going to literally run it to the ground for the regular people. Obviously, if you're in that 1%, if you're in that high earner, things are going pretty well for you right now in the UK, probably better than they ever have been. But the majority of people are going to go through something they've never seen. I think in the 1970s, Britain was so bankrupt it actually had to go to the IMF. I was a young man then, I can remember it. I remember when they had the lights, the LED, had to turn off the lights and stuff like that, and people would be, in the bath, and all of a sudden the lights have gone off, or you'd be going down the street and then there will be no lights on street lights. People who are younger than me probably won't remember that, but those of my generation and older will remember that. We could be coming right back to that state again in the UK, and it won't be. It's not fetch, because you have to understand that just like banks, if you're into banking and banking understanding, it works on trust. If you trust the bank can run, and as it's running, just continue to run. But if somebody makes people scared about the state of a particular bank, and the people, it doesn't even take 1/4 of the people who have their money in there to go looking for their money, and the bank will collapse. Not even a quarter, not half, not all the people, just 1/4 of the people go running for their money, the bank will have to collapse, because the bank never has the money that it says it has. It works on trust. It's just like anything. It's like the police force. It works on a certain level of trust. When law and order breaks down and people no longer trust their police, the police can't police. They have to go home. They have to go back take their uniforms off and join the crowd, as we saw in Tunisia and places like that, and I think Egypt, when they had their revolution, the police just took the uniforms off because it was unpoliceable. You couldn't police it. And this is what can happen, and it can happen very, very quickly. Now, people would say it's unheard of, it can't happen in the UK, but two major things have happened. The stability of the Queen that they've had for the last, I don't know, how long was he there? 70 odd years has gone. And they've got somebody else who people are not too sure about in his position. Now they've got somebody else in the Prime Minister's position. So you've got the two power positions in the UK with people that are completely unsure, that the people are unsure of both of those people. The office may still be there, but the people in those offices are on shaky ground, very shaky ground, because of the way they see the world and the way they're living in the past. And I mean, that's most of the biggest problem with Britain or the UK, for anybody who understands it, that the British in general are living in the past. They're living on their Great Britain and the fact that they were something once upon a time in the world, they can't actually see where they are today. This is what caused them a problem in the European Union. I mean, how could Britain ever think of going it alone? I mean, it's ridiculous. They make nothing. They literally own nothing. How do you go it alone? You have to import so many things. How do you go it alone? You've got a country where everybody thinks that they're greater than they are, so therefore the people in that country, workers, are going to want more money. They're going to believe that they should be doing as well as at least the third world people, if not better. And then what happens? They want more money. You won't give them more money. You get strikes, and then the country starts to go grind itself like in the 70s back into the ground. This is a sobering time for those of you who like to have a little drink here or there. I wouldn't say hold a glass up right now. I'd say get sober right now, because things are gonna move at lightning speed now when it comes to the UK, because the UK is no longer trusted by the people outside. It's no longer able to pull the wool over people's eyes, just like a bank. And people are going to start come knocking for what they believe is theirs. People are going to start shaking them off who couldn't shake them off before, just like happened after the Second World War, and the colonial system was finished. Now it's going to be even more people running away from the UK. So I'd say watch this space. If you're in the UK, or you're connected to people in the UK, then you really need to get together now. You're never going to have a time more than ever where you cannot be an individual. The individual situation in the UK, you must understand that itself is over. You've got to get together with your brothers, your sisters, your friends and your family, and try to do things together, purchase things together, work together, understand one another. The individual situation is going to crush you. People are going to get crushed individually, and other people are not going to know until it's too late that person is no more, because they were on an individual road or trajectory. So try and get together, stick with the Live for Love TV, and take care.
This is Live for Love TV. Live for Love TV. Yes, I am. One step more. One step more. One step more. Until you reach your goals. One step more. Save them soul. One step more. One step more. How good it is to reach the Live for Love TV. This is Live for Love TV.